Tropical storm Melissa is currently located in the Caribbean Sea and poses an extremely life-threatening risk to many areas just north of the storm over the next 5 days, forecast to move incredibly slowly and drop a lot of rainfall. Right now, the storm is dealing with some wind shear for the time being, though, but it is still a tropical storm on the Saffir-Simpson wind scale. Right now, it's got winds of 45 miles per hour, pressure zone at 1,001 millibars, moving only off towards the northwest at a snail's pace, 2 miles per hour, and we are very high code orange on the T-Coast scale for this storm right now, and I imagine we'll probably be seeing code red in the future for this hurricane, or tropical storm I should be saying. Soon to be a hurricane, believe it or not. So the storm right now is located at 15.6 degrees north, 75.5 degrees west, which is 191 miles away from Kingston in Jamaica, 195 from Port Salut in the peninsula of Haiti there, 260 from Montego Bay in Jamaica, 281 from Port-au-Prince, the capital of Haiti, and 306 from Santiago de Cuba on the eastern tip of Cuba. The hurricane, or the tropical storm, is forecast to move very slowly over the next few days and drop a lot of rainfall and rapidly intensify throughout that day 5 period as well. Right now, the storm is dealing with some wind shear though, so the wind field is mainly going to be in those convections, which is mainly going to be on the eastern side of the circulation for now. Nonetheless, regardless of that, a tropical storm warning and a hurricane watch are in place for the entire island of Jamaica and the southwestern peninsula of Haiti from the border with the Dominican Republic to Port-au-Prince. I imagine those areas, in particular Jamaica, will be upgraded to a hurricane warning very, very soon, as the hurricane is forecast to be very, very close as a Category 4, maybe even a Category 5 to Jamaica over the next 3 to 4 days. Very much a very close call. We'll have to wait and see though. Very low confidence forecast track. The rainfall forecast is extreme, it has to be said. 6 to 12 inches is currently the expectation, with isolated higher amounts probably going to occur in local areas. Additional totals beyond 12 inches are entirely possible, but all depends on the track forecast. This is a very, very, very low confidence forecast. So I imagine that we're going to be seeing rainfall in excess of 20 inches of rainfall, that we're going to be seeing potentially in excess of that. Very, very dangerous amounts. And that's just the rainfall side of things. The wind side of things, of course, you're going to have this hurricane. It's probably explosively deepen over the next 3 days. Probably into Category 4, maybe even Category 5 status. We'll have to wait and see on that, though. That's a whole other ballgame in and on its own. For the next few days, though, the hurricane moves incredibly slowly, getting a little bit of a move on as it becomes a hurricane here in around 2 days from now, and then rapidly intensify. All bets are off beyond that. The day forecast right now does call for a peak of 145 miles per hour, mid-Category 4. Easily could go well beyond that. Some model runs right now are consistently, yes, in the range of 180, 190 miles per hour. I am not kidding with this storm. This is going to be an extremely dangerous storm, moving very, very close to Jamaica, as you can see per the National Hurricane forecast cone. Not saying it's going to get anywhere close to that intensity. It's entirely possible, to be honest with you. But this is a dangerous hurricane. You know, we're talking about extremely high amounts of rainfall over the next few days. Not going to be moving very much. A very large hurricane at that too. The only limiting threat might be the storm itself over the next few days once the wind shear abates. That's how perfect of an environment that the storm is right now. AMSU once again down at tropical depression status. We don't need to worry about that. SATCON and ADT a little bit higher than what we're going with right now. But reconnaissance aircraft are in the storm right now, and they've gotten winds solidly of 45 miles per hour. A little bit toned down from 24 hours ago when it was at 50. So maybe a little bit of weakening under that wind shear, though holding its own right now. Look at the model guidance. Just a picture of how uncertain the forecast is. Does the storm go off a little bit off towards the east, like the GFS is saying, and it's much weaker, goes right into Haiti and the Dominican Republic and then out to sea? I don't think that's going to happen. That's becoming a much less of a scenario. The National Hurricane forecast track is becoming much more likely, and as such, those higher solutions, you see the HWRF at Category 4 status, and the official Hurricane Center forecast, that OFCL, that black line, that is a pinpointing a Category 4 peak intensity. There are some model runs, has to be said, that are way, way higher than this. Of course, you got the HAFS A and B model runs picking probably a Category 5. Remains to be seen exactly how strong the storm will get. All depends on track. Very, very low confidence forecast in both track and intensity. You'll see the track forecast here in just a second. So remains to be seen exactly how this will change over the next few days. It would just about 145 miles per hour. Wouldn't surprise me if it goes up even further. The track forecast has to be said. You can just see, just in the very short term, where does the storm go? We don't even know 24 hours out what the storm will be. That is just how low of a track forecast that we have right now with the storm. But you'll notice, past day 3, day 4, goes into eastern Cuba. Pretty certain on that. We do think that it's going to go off towards the northeast and out into the Atlantic. Where does it go beyond that? Does it go and curve back into the U.S. East Coast, or a majority of the miles do take it out to sea? There's not a 0% chance of an impact in Bermuda or the northeastern U.S. Keep an eye on that. Remains to be seen how impacts will unfold once again in the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Jamaica and Cuba. Remains to be seen. Remain vigilant if you are in Haiti, Dominican Republic, and eastern Cuba. I would say right now, prepare for the absolute worst. You know, very similar in Jamaica to Hurricane Gilbert. If you remember that back in 1988, that was a very heavy hit to the island. I'd probably be preparing for them even worse than that, to be honest with you. This is the kind of threat that we're going to be dealing with, a very slow-moving, very major hurricane over land areas. The last time we had something like this was Dorian back in 2019. You all know what happened to the northeastern Bahamas with that. So here's what we're seeing in terms of the models, in terms of track. You can see that GFS in the red line there, much more eastern solution, but you can see a lot of them have pretty much going the storm towards Jamaica. If you are in Jamaica, I would be very much concerned of a Category 4 or a Category 5 peak into your island. That is an extremely dangerous situation. That can cause extreme amounts of loss of life, damage, and reach that might stretch beyond even the next few years of impacts in Jamaica. That is the kind of storm that we're talking about right now. I don't mean to sound doomcasting or anything, but that's the kind of threat that we're dealing with right now with this storm, even with the low forecast confidence we have right now in the track forecast. Look at those waters, though. Unparalleled in terms of ocean heat content, and as high as they go. 32 to 33 degrees Celsius waters out ahead of the storm right now. Much more favorable in the Caribbean Sea. Untouched virtually for the last few years even that we're going to be seeing for the storm right now. We've got a buoy just to the south of the storm right now, got a pressure of 1,003 millibars, so the storm is fairly broad in its nature right now. Though once it gets that core going, how small does it get? Is it a little bit of a bigger core and that wind field is a little bit farther out? Or is it much tighter, and that way the circulation is able to tighten up a little bit more, would result in a much higher peak intensity? Something to watch very closely. What remains to be seen how strong the storm gets, though. We'll have to wait and see on that, though. So here you can see the depictions on the model run side of things. Remains to be seen exactly how strong, how close the storm gets to Jamaica. Maybe even stalling over Jamaica for a day or two. Of course, we all saw what Dorian did back in 2019. Not saying that this is going to be anywhere close to that for Jamaica, but a substantial threat nonetheless. You know, once again, if you're Jamaica, prepare for the absolute worst. Has to be said, though. You can see the intensity models are all over the place right now, though they are dead set. Most of the higher resolution model runs, the HAFSB and A, and HWRF and HMON, locked in on a major hurricane peak for this storm right now. I do think that it'll get to that. It's just a matter of time. Wind shear right now is limiting factor, but you can see in about 24 hours from now, that's when it drops. That's when we're going to be seeing the storm bomb out. So really, if you are in Jamaica, the time is running out to prepare. You have to prepare now for this hurricane. Once that wind shear abates, all bets are off. Sea temperatures are not going to be a problem. Once that wind shear abates, this storm will find itself in an absolutely perfect environment for explosive deepening. Remember that? Maybe compare that to the Typhoon Hagibis back in 2019. That from a mid-tropical storm to a Category 5 in I think 18-24 hours. Not saying that's going to happen with Melissa, but it's a very distinct possibility. So the storm right now is looking fairly interesting underneath those wind shear. It sort of splits up in half, you could say. The center of this storm is just about where that triangle is in the middle of your screen. I've tried to position the imagery roughly over the center of the circulation. You can see much of that heavy rainfall is going to be underneath those thunderstorm complexes. It's hard to depict exactly where those will be in the future. But anyway, very heavy rainfall is going to be underneath this storm, given that it's moving incredibly slowly. We're going to be seeing rainfall totals potentially in excess of 15 inches, potentially in excess of 20 inches over the next few days. Very, very dangerous storm. This kind of threat for this kind of storm given the population centers that are at risk, is going to be extreme. Very, very extreme population risk from Hurricane Melissa over the next few days. And I can't say this enough. Very low confidence, very dangerous, and needs to be watched very, very closely. If you're in Jamaica, if you're in Haiti, the Dominican Republic, or Cuba, please, and I please urge you, prepare now for this hurricane. It is extremely dangerous, even as a tropical storm. You may not think like, oh, this doesn't pose a significant risk. It does. Trust me. Prepare now. Do not wait for this hurricane. It is on the way, and it's going to probably strike Jamaica as a major hurricane, maybe even as a Category 5. Prepare now. Do not wait.